sure you know what you're doing?
Yeah. Come on.
As much as you guys fly under the radar from a standpoint of staying in your lane, neither of you are on social media. I don't know if I can account ever you guys posting on social media, and maybe had accounts from time to time to stay connected with friends or, whatever it may be. But not a lot of people know who you are unless they grew up in Mesa or Gilbert, Arizona, because now you all have kids and running around. And I appreciate you coming out of your shell a little bit and being willing to share the story. So if you're all right with it, I will, take people back a little bit to our relationship and how all this got started. And then I just want to dive into how you created, the monster that you created inside of this world of, restoration and construction and those kind of things. So for people that don't know, I have Ben Horne and Robert Horne. They are the founders and owners of DryLux Restoration, as well as HyperBuilt, which is a sister company. They are my cousins. I have known them as long as any people on the planet. Ben is 2 years older than Robert and I. Robert's 6 months older than me. And some of my best memories in life growing up were us up north at the cabins or birthday parties or whatever it may be. And, Ben always letting Robert and I tag along, and then, starting life together, as adults and seeing that happen. So our moms are sisters. We got Arlene and Darlene. I was adopted, so maybe I don't look quite the same as these two, but they're some of my best friends in the world. And to give people some context of where you guys came from, their family is massive. So 10 kids in total. Ben, you had a twin sister that unfortunately didn't share this life with us, but a huge family, and you are number 4?
Let's see. You're gonna make me count. 6. So yeah, I'm number 6.
Number 6?
Yeah. Right.
6.
7.
Yeah. Okay, you were going backwards. We're going from there.
Okay. Yeah.
You're the 4th oldest.
No. If you're counting right, so we have John.
Yep.
No, Shelly.
Yep.
Carrie. John. Carrie. Deborah. Lacey. Then me. I'm 6th. Yeah,
Jeez,
so we're counting the right way.
No, you are counting.
Yeah, you just don't.
I don't know.
realize.
I think I was putting
there.
Deborah and Lacey below us, but yes, they're of course older than us. So you come from a huge family. I think it's fair to say that, your parents worked hard, but you certainly didn't come from, like excessive means. I imagine, or at least how I remember, a lot of years you guys grew up together sharing rooms, and, in the house, it was just so many people around. Us being on the younger end, I guess some of them were out of the house, earlier, but one thing that stood out about you guys is that as long as I can remember, you guys have been working. Rob, one of my favorite memories of Rob is that when we got our licenses, he would drive around with that little white truck with all the pool equipment, and he'd be hanging out with us, and then he would disappear for a couple hours and go work on the pools and then come back to whatever we were doing. But you guys have always worked, and it was always this, at least this is from my viewpoint and how it occurred for me, is that nothing was going to be given to you, and if you wanted it, you needed to go create it. And both of you have some of the greatest work ethic I've ever seen, and it's just gone on for a long, long time. I mean, only 37. Ben, you're not 40 yet?
Just turned 40.
Just turned 40.
Yeah.
And it's strange to have, somebody that could be, 40 and 25 years into their career. And, so it's been fun to see what you guys have created. And thanks for being willing to come on A Million Ways to Make $1 Million, the podcast, and share your story. And I hope that people can get some light around this stipulation around. I feel like a lot of people, hey, be careful going into business with family. Don't go into business with family. And I think you guys have had some of those experiences, and we'll dive into it. So without further ado, Ben Horne, Robert Horne.
Thank you for the intro.
Yeah.
It goes way back.
Yeah. Tell me, so you had an introduction into restoration through your older brother, John, right? So if I remember right, he probably started his restoration company when we were early high school.
Yeah. He was working for someone. John worked for Arizona Public Service with my dad for as long as I knew when he got married and so forth. But
That's right. He was reading meters and doing that stuff. Okay, I forgot about that.
And then he was working with a guy that had a company, and on the side just kind of doing some odds and ends when you get off work to make some extra money. And he had the opportunity to purchase that company. I think that was my senior year, so probably around 2005, 2004.
Okay.
I don't know. Were you around when he?
No, I was on a mission. I was around before, but just very very briefly, a few months into it, when he worked with the person he actually bought the company from. So I actually worked alongside with John, and then when I was on my mission, he purchased the company.
Yeah.
And then Rob was the number one guy.
Yeah.
Right?
So
Rob took over in high school.
So my senior year, I was cleaning pools at that point. Ben went on his mission. I took over all his pools. I kind of followed Ben's jobs. He would get to a point in a job and get a better job, and I'd go take his job. And so,
all right.
So the pools I was cleaning were Ben's job, pool route, his old pool route. And of course, once John purchased the company, I saw the opportunity to I can make a lot more money, and I was pretty confident and so forth. So took a little persuasion, but he didn't want to hire me because I was young. I was a senior in high school, and I had to go sell jobs at people's houses. I had to convince them to let me tear apart their kitchens and their bathrooms, and which was not an easy task, because I looked even younger than I was. And so with heavy persuasion, he let me do it. So I did a half day of school.
So this wasn't him recruiting you and saying, Rob, come work for me. This is you saying, hey, John, let me in, hire me. I can help.
This is Rob saying, I don't want to clean pools anymore.
I don't want to clean pools anymore.
So, all right.
Summer was coming up. That's the worst time of the season. And he would hire me to do little odds and ends, like some of the different stuff. But I was pushing to hey, I get out at noon. I had a half day my senior year, and I was like, hey, I'll go to work, and so, yeah, that's how it all started. So
you were handy, Rob. I tell this joke quite a bit, that you were the son that my dad always wished I was.
Which I'm named
From
after.
a standpoint, so, yeah. Rob is named after my dad. And during the summers, my dad would build a house. He'd build 1 or 2 houses a year to add to his portfolio. Mm-hmm. And where I would do my best to get out of working on those houses from whatever basketball camp I could get into. You were there.
Yeah.
You were on every construction site learning. When different trades would show up, you would just be hovering around learning all these different trades. So although you might have only been 17, you'd been on job sites since we were 14. I might remember he'd go pick you up before you could drive to go to the job sites.
Yeah. So I've always enjoyed work with my hands. I always enjoyed construction and so forth like that. So I had a good basis on, what we were doing, but not when it comes to restoration, but you're correct. Yeah.
One thing cool about that, James, and I'm just going to draw on the family connection because it probably doesn't happen very often for you, right? Is, our parents, they taught us to work hard. It wasn't that they forced us to work. We were just aware. 9 kids, fixed income. If you want a dirt bike, it's not coming for Christmas, right? You're going to have to go get it. And I think that's what really, drove us originally is we wanted things. We lived in a great neighborhood, but we were probably the family that was stretched when everybody else was, living below their means. And we wanted, dirt bikes. We wanted, trucks when we were 16. We wanted these things. And so we knew that we had to go out and get it. But it's your dad, Uncle Rob. Even though we learned the work ethic from how we were raised and the support of our family, it's your dad was kind of our role model, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, your dad was a go-getter, get things done. He was an entrepreneur. He had a lot of different things going on. So, us growing up, it was always kind of we would love to do what Uncle Rob did.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a really, and would you not agree?
Yeah, I mean,
he's always been kind of the person we looked up to.
Rob was a great dude. Great dude.
Great dude. Great guy.
Love
Great
Uncle
uncle.
Rob a ton.
Yeah.
Amazing uncle.
Yeah. With that being said, our parents were very supportive, and so we were pretty confident kids. You know, they gave us unconditional love. No matter what we did, we had support from them, which helped with our confidence, I feel like. So our parents were amazing, very supportive in anything we did, even if it was outside their comfort zone.
Yeah.
And but yeah, that's kind of how it started. You know, I learned how to do some construction, you know, was cleaning pools at that time, and then did some persuasion with my older brother to let me, hey, give me a shot. And then I ran with it. So,
yeah. And it was, Ben, you didn't see this transformation, but all of a sudden, you know, Rob was working more probably because of what it inquired. You probably had to go prove yourself. Like, so we didn't quite see him as much, but then he came with the brand new truck on 23s and 24s.
I would get these emails and like pictures. I'm like, where'd Rob get a brand new truck on 22s or 24s and stereo system?
Work hard, play hard.
Yeah,
Listen, we would go to Applebee's, right? And, you know, in high school, we're like ordering appetizers and, you know, we're a waiter's worst nightmare. Hey, can you split this check 8 different ways? And Rob would just start covering the bill. Like, oh, let's just get out of here. I got this one. We look at Rob like, where's all this money coming from? Like, how do you have this money? And it was like you had a full career. I felt like
working.
Rob, I felt like you were working more than you were going to school.
Probably, yeah. I mean, because I got out at noon, and
Yeah.
so then I was working till 7, 8 o'clock at night, and then going having fun. So
Yeah.
I was definitely doing more hours at work than I was at school, but I was young and it was fun. So, I mean,
So now you're working for your older brother. Ben, you come home.
I come home and Rob, he's on his mission.
so yeah, when Ben came home, I was probably working for about a year and a half with my brother John, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then finally he followed my job position, you know. So I was like, all right, well, here you go, and you know, he kind of took my spot, and I went on my mission, and yeah.
I took over. So it's when I got back, the original goal was to go to dental school. Rob had the same goal as well. It wasn't get into the service industry. And Rob left. Fortunately, John, my brother, was able to be flexible on the schedule. So I started working for him. I think I got back on a Saturday and started school on a Monday.
Yeah.
So I was thrown to the fire. And the difference, though, is, you know, I wanted to go to dental school. I had to get good grades. So it was pretty taxing early on, is coming back from a mission. Rob had a lot more time to work the schedule, right? He's in high school, had graduated high school by then. And so I was trying to fill his shoes and keep up the workflow. It was just us, right? We were the only employees. He had one full-time employee and a part-time that'd come help out on the weekends. And so I was following Rob's footsteps, but also trying to balance going to school.
Yeah.
And I continued that for about a year, almost a year and a half, where I would wake up, go to school, wake up at 5 a.m., finish up whatever stuff I didn't finish the night before, go to class till 11, noon, depending on the day, depending on the schedule was. And then I'd go work till 10, 11 at night, and just repeat every day. And as I did that, you know, it taught me a lot about myself, right? Luckily, I'd springboarded off a mission, so I was used to long hours.
Yeah, you guys, you've referenced this, and just for anyone that doesn't quite pick up on the mission, they're referencing a 2-year LDS service mission where both of you left the country. Ben, you went to Brazil for 2 years. So out of the country for 2 years, you come back, dive right into school, and Rob went to Taiwan, and you were gone for a couple of years. But just to give somebody an example, like you're actually gone, not just traveling. Like you left for 2 years, now you're coming back and just straight into the fire.
Straight into the fire. Restoration, luckily, isn't that difficult to learn, right? So I was able to pick up on it pretty quick, get in a good groove, and it was great. Then I got a phone call from my brother John, and he said that they wanted to kind of switch things up. And I think my mom was involved in the business at that point, and they wanted to distance themselves from family and didn't give me a hard date, but said, hey, look, this was fall. He said, come beginning of the year, uh, find something else to do, basically. And so at that point,
You didn't feel like that was a lack of performance, or
Not at
Rob, are you
all.
sitting saying, "Hey, what did you just screw up for us, man? We had this good gig." Like, what was that like? Like, it was just it was a
No.
them thing, not a you thing.
I think it was a separate from family period. Like they just wanted to do it on their own. And I can remember that was a scary phone call for me, right? Because the goal was dental school. I was in a group. I was working along. I was working 50, 60-hour weeks for $600. It's not like I was overpaid. Definitely didn't, drop the ball as far as workload. But I think it was just this, and for him, I think that working with family was a challenge, right? It was something that brought stress. Maybe he couldn't speak as freely to me as he'd like, right? Maybe he didn't like that I had to have a certain schedule to go to school. I didn't really ask him, but I can just remember hanging up the phone. I can remember exactly where I was. I was in my apartment, in our bedroom, and I hang up the phone. I'm like, well, what am I going to do now? Because I still have to provide for my wife and I. She's going to school. She's at ASU's nursing program at the time. She couldn't work. And so I still have to provide for us, but this is the only thing that I have. And I can remember like almost instantly it was, okay, well, my brother doesn't do reconstruction, right? At the time he was referring all his reconstruction jobs out to another company, and he didn't want to get into that part of it.
Let me break it down just for a second. So, how I hear that is somebody's house floods.
Mm-hmm.
The restoration or water remediation side of that is that you go in, stop whatever's causing the flood if it hadn't been already, and then you dry out the areas that were flooded. But what that could look like is cutting holes in walls, ripping up floor, drying it all out so mold isn't an issue. And now you have a house that's been torn apart.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're saying restoration companies might just say, hey, good luck, go find somebody to put all that back for you.
Many still do, yeah. Many just do the initial part, the demo and dry out, right? They're going to remove cabinets, drywall, insulation, flooring, put the fans up, mitigate it, get it to where it's not wet, not going to get moldy. And then at that point, they stop. And then the reconstruction company, more like a contracting company, will come in and finish it. Lots of companies do A to Z. He did not. The construction side is definitely more work for less margins. It's not as attractive if you're going into. And back then,
you're having to match. If they're trying to save floors, you're trying to have to do the match and try and get cabinets and stay within a budget that they have from insurance. Like,
dry out equipment's making you money. Reconstruction work is making you money. So you can see the appeal there. And so he didn't need to. He had a successful business. He was doing well. It fit his lifestyle, and he didn't care about the reconstruction. He was just feeding it to another company. And at that point, I was like, well, I don't know reconstruction. I know that he's giving reconstruction jobs. I'll approach him. So he wasn't getting a referral at that point or getting any type of percentage deal for referring the work. So I said,
hey, just send it to someone else to take it.
He was just sending someone else to take care of the customer. And so I wanted more than just, hey, send me work. I didn't want to feel like, to beg for it. So I said, hey, I'll give you, I want to say it's like 5%. Not a big deal, but when you're running on thin margins, it's better than nothing.
And more than he was getting.
Yeah, and more than he was getting. And I went to him and I said, hey, give me your reconstruction jobs. Obviously, I couldn't handle all of them, right? But the ones that I do, I will give you 5%. And at that point, I didn't have a contractor's license. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to do drywall, baseboards.
Rob's still gone.
Rob's gone.
There, yeah,
Okay.
Rob's gone.
So you're on your own. Yep.
He could have used me.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. I could have used Rob. Absolutely. It would have been a great partnership early on. So what I did is I was able to align with a contractor. So I told my brother I'd give him 5%, aligned with another contractor. And I said, hey, let me work under your company. I'll do the jobs. I'll guarantee everything. And I'll give you 10%. Right.
To go into someone's home and work on it, as my understanding, all states require you to have a certain amount of experience and or a license that's registered with the state to be able to go and do good work.
Correct.
That's what you're referencing.
Correct. I could not just go in and create my own company with a license and do the repairs required.
So you were looking for somebody that had that experience or license that you could work underneath their supervision, essentially,
had
or
the platform ability to do the work. So I couldn't. Right.
Yeah.
So I worked out the deal. I was giving John 5%, giving this guy 10%. I went out and I learned Xactimate, which is the pricing program, the software that insurance companies use. And then I had to go find somebody who had to do the work. So I was able to find a guy that for $500 a day, he knew all the trades: cabinets, drywall, baseboard, insulation. And I would go in, I would do the estimate, I'd get it approved, I'd schedule it, I would hire him for $500 a day, and I'd just go help him. I was
Get
his
it approved
helper.
with who?
What was that?
Get it approved with who?
The insurance company.
Okay,
Yeah,
so they have a budget. They're saying, here's your
Yeah.
budget. You go in. Yes, that budget can do this, this, and this. Insurance company, do you approve that we spend the money that you give on this portion of putting the house back together?
Correct.
They get the approval.
Lo-
So that's
lo-
where you're running. That's the work that you're doing.
Absolutely, yeah. A lot of back end work goes into restoration,
Yeah.
right? Anything that you're doing, you have to send over estimates, communicate with the adjusters, get approval, then schedule. So I was doing all the back end office work, and then on top of that, I wanted to learn. I wanted to know how to do drywall. I wanted to know what it went into jobs. So I would show up as his helper, right? I didn't have to pay him to have a helper because it usually requires two to do a lot of these reconstruction jobs. I would show up and just be his helper. So I would get out of school. He'd usually get to the job first. I'd meet him over there. And I did that for probably about a year. And it was going good. About that time, Robert is ready to come home. And obviously, I saw opportunity on the water mitigation side because it's more profitable, less work. I'd really love to jump into that. And I noticed since I left, because I used to do all the late night jobs, he'd hired some other guys, but John ended up not wanting to deal with the late night jobs. So I found out he was sending those to another mitigation company. So like he'd get a call at midnight, and instead of waking up his employee or having to deal with the scheduling and going out, he would just send it to another company. And so I had the idea, well, I was able to save some money within that year of running things, and the margins on that were great for me, right? I was making $600 a week. I'd go do a hot water heater job, which consists of drywall, baseboard, paint, insulation, and it would estimate out for $2,000, right? I end up giving away, 10% to the contractor, so 200, 100 to John, the 5%, and then 500. So I'm out 700. Materials maybe 1,000. So I'd be able to make $1,000 in a day, where before with John I was making 600 a week.
Yeah.
So even though that it was hard at the moment, and it was scary when he told me that, way better life situation for me.
And you're still going to
Still-
school
still-
to prepare for dental school.
Still going to school, just hustling harder,
Yeah.
right? Having to do juggle a lot of other parts of the business.
Yeah.
And so at that point, I realized that John was not doing these jobs. And the thing about these jobs is the 12 o'clock, 1 a.m. jobs, they're the best jobs. They're the ones that people are calling you out because their house is flooded. They are the most profitable jobs. And so I went up to him and I said, hey, you're just sending these. I would love to do these for you. I'll go out and I'll work for free. I know what I'm doing. I'll take your equipment, your truck, your contract, do it under your company. I will set up on one for you, so at least you're capturing one of the two jobs, 50% of it, and then you just send me the other one rather than send it to this guy that you have a relationship with. And he liked that idea, right? He's getting 50%
More than he
of the
was.
jobs, more than he was. And so I started doing that, and that really springboarded me because, and he knew it. He was comfortable. He was okay where he was in life. So by the time Robert had,
Well, and the advantage to you is, I just heard that little part, that you now had access to more equipment
so
too, so you could learn on that portion of it. I don't know if he was allowing you to use any equipment on your own jobs.
So I would
but
use his equipment on his job, his stuff, his contract. But what happened is the reconstruction. It cost about $40,000 to start that up originally. I had to get a truck, a trailer, equipment. I didn't have that day one when
Yeah.
he said, hey, you've got a few months before you're not going to work with us anymore. But over the year, because I'm making $1,000 a day rather than 600, I was able to save
Yeah.
enough to buy my own equipment, my
Yeah.
own truck.
Okay.
So I was able to do it on my own, right? Through basically looking at opportunity that was close by, right? I didn't just abandon what I had. I looked at, okay, where could I take advantage of this situation, even though I'm not going to work for my brother John,
Yeah.
right? And so I approached him, made the deal sweeter for him, right? So I'm not begging for stuff, doing basically a business proposal, right?
Yeah.
Like, hey, I will do this for you. It makes you more money, and it'll also help me. And so after I'd worked in the reconstruction and was able to save up the $40,000 or whatever it was to buy the equipment trailer, that's when I approached him on, hey, give me a job, and the ones that you're going to give away anyways, and I will do one for you labor free, right? Like I won't charge you for the labor. And that worked great because like I said, that really springboarded things because the fact that they were large jobs. So instead of making like 1,000 on a job, I'm making a couple to a few thousand. And those weren't as often, right? Might be 1, 2 a
Yeah,
week.
but it's a big difference maker for where you're at if you can pick up 2 a month, 3 a
Big
month,
time.
or something like that.
Especially for
Yeah.
a kid that was making 600 a week,
Yeah.
you know, a fixed rate. And so, yeah, I was working a little bit harder, but I was getting rewarded way more for it financially. And so just about that time, I remember we talked on the phone, right? I think you called home and Rob said, hey, I want to go into water damage. And I said, well, you still want to go to dental school? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, well, let's do this together because at that time it was getting kind of hard, right? I'm going to school, I'm doing rebuilds, and then I'm getting woken up at midnight and going doing a flood. So I mean, there were
Kids in the picture
first kid
on the way, or
was
roughly.
no.
you didn't have a kid yet.
I'm about a year away from kids at this point. So it's just my wife and I. So great timing in
Yeah.
life.
Rob, you're saying I'm gonna come home. I don't know whatever happened with you and John, but I'm gonna go
Yeah.
back and get my old job back.
No, I was going to start my own business regardless. So when I got home, I was planning on trying to start my own. That's what the conversation was. Like I was like, cool, awesome. You started your own thing. I'm going to do the same thing. And that's when the conversation started between us. Like, okay, why don't we team up? Because like you said, he was running ragged at that point.
Why be competitors when this isn't our plan A?
Well, now you'd have 3
Yeah.
brothers that could be competitors at that point.
Yeah.
You know, from there, but it
And
made sense
be
to.
very clearly, John was never, he was always supportive and
Always
and
great to
like
us,
our brother John that started it, like it was never try to take his work, take his business. He was always a good support system, and you know, he blessed our lives a ton. You know what I mean? So like, it wasn't competitors, but you know, it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to compete you and outdo you or outdo my brother. It was just more like friendly conversation, discussing and
Hey, if there's a spot for
communication,
me,
yeah.
great. And if there's not, I'm going to go do my own
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
And
This is early on in restoration in the valley. The market was a lot more open than it is now.
Mhm.
yeah,
But
Correct.
I think where we aligned is Rob said he also wanted to do a company. I already had this system figured out, but it wasn't my own, right? Because I'm still doing repairs off of John's referrals and I'm still doing floods off of. I hadn't built my own clientele, right? Referral partners. And I think in that's where we kind of came together and we're like, all right, well, when you get back, we will try to do this where we create our own referral partners, get out and do guerrilla marketing, hit it. And it was really hard for me to do on my own. I couldn't have done and grown a business on my own because I was maxed out.
Yeah.
I was school full time. I was running a rebuild business and then trying to do floods that always came in when I should be sleeping because I'm running on zero.
Yeah.
And so Robert coming at that time was like a huge relief. Like, all right, I've got help. So it was actually perfect timing.
We so once we were like, all right, let's just team up, go together. It was this was just, the goal was to get us through school. It's like this, school's our plan A.
why
DryLux was plan
dental?
B.
Like, did you guys know a dentist? Like, where did both of you guys land on
Dentists
dental school?
we're always successful and we like to work with our hands.
Yeah,
we had a
so-
sister that went into dental hygiene before us and she always spoke highly about the field.
So it was just what made most sense at that point. I mean, we didn't go sit and watch a dentist for a day or anything like that. Just seemed like we could make a good living with it, and the pathway was, 4 years of school, go to dental school for another 3.5, 4 years, and you're a dentist. And
Maybe
So-
not as committal as med school, right? A little bit
Yeah.
shorter.
Well, that's
and
something that's interesting because I don't
competitive.
remember you as much in high school, Ben,
Mhm.
because you were a full 2 or maybe even 3 years older than us in school.
2 years older in school.
Yeah.
But
right?
Rob, school was not your thing.
no,
Like,
it was
you
not
were
my thing.
not that you didn't have the
I-
ability, but like it did not hold your interest in any way, as how I remember.
Correct, but I didn't see the pathway to be and make a good living as doing what I was doing. My vision was not very open at that point. So so I think, and also once Ben decided to go to dental school, I followed a lot of his jobs. I kind of followed him a lot of. He's 2 years older, my older brother. So I was like, sweet, I'll do it with you. You know what I mean?
We
Like
would
that.
have been dentists. We would have been probably partners.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like it was like,
kinda
all right, you're gonna do it.
Establish that relationship.
Sounds good to
early,
me.
yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
You know?
it wasn't much more thought than other than, hey, we wanted to have some sort of a direction to go. And, we at that point we thought school and becoming a doctor or a dentist was the best decision, So yeah, so he's in dental school for 2 years. I mean, not dental school. He's in college for about a year and a half, 2 years at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I come back in, we team up, and we stagger our schedules. So he's going afternoon, I'm going in morning, so we can help tag team the business and then also give us enough time to where we can go to school. And you're right, I didn't love school. I mean, I can do it,
You've
but
always had a work ethic, though.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I
if
was a
like
worker,
that
so-
was the goal, you just turned on the work side of the brain and
Yep.
just worked.
Yep. So, that's, I got home and like we started going at it right away. Like it was,
We did.
Yeah.
Rob came home. I can remember we ran this out of my apartment first, a 2-bedroom apartment, had equipment in the second bedroom because I did not have kids yet, right? And then because at this point the market's crazy, right? This is what, like 2007, 2008.
Mhm.
And so I rented a house and we ran it out of the garage. And I can remember we'd have these meetings and, we're these young kids. We looked young. We looked younger than we were. And it would be like, all right, let's go hit the pavement. Let's go out. We
go.
would drive out to plumbing companies, try to meet with owners. We do cold calling, and we did anything we could just to reach out to anybody that could potentially be a referral partner.
Mhm.
And we did that a long time with little success.
yes.
Little success.
I mean, we look young, like we did not look old. Like, so when you're going out trying to get referral partners that are, plumbers
and
or
in business,
property
I mean,
managers or
23 years old and 21 years old isn't exactly seasoned regardless, let alone looking younger than you are. But
Correct.
now you're the one running the business. Can I ask a question? Because when I had mentioned I had, Jason on, who had also done restoration, his focus was getting business through insurance agents.
Mhm.
You're saying you guys went to plumbing companies.
Yeah, we met with some agents, but mainly plumbing referral
Yeah,
partners.
Yeah, so I understand the agents from his side because he's saying, "Hey, what do I do?" And it's almost sounds like if my house is flooding, do I call my insurance agent because this has got to get taken care of, or do I call a plumber to
Yeah.
come fix it? And that's the two ways to generate
and
who comes and fixes my house.
Jason, he has a good story. I know Jason very well, too. Great guy. And
Or your neighbors.
yeah, so
Right.
yeah, he's lives across the street. So Jason had a vision of where he could make something a bad situation that he was in and take the relationships and go create a restoration company. Similar for us, our brother's company was based off referral partners from like plumbers and so forth like that. So that's what we knew. We learned from it. We saw it worked. And so that's why we went more pushing that route because that's what we knew,
Yeah.
And so, had I been in Jason's situation, I probably would have went after insurance agents, but it's cool that different business models, but same industry, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's why we stuck with, hey, let's try to get some more plumbers. Of course, not my brother's, not his contacts. We were going after our own. And I mean, it was not very easy. It was.
I can remember the first yes we got.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know how many no's. You go in as a 22-year-old that looks like he's 17 and a
Yes.
21-year-old that probably looks like he's 15.
And,
And try to meet with a successful owner of a plumbing company that's running,
Mhm.
30 trucks. They're just going to kind of smile at you. Like, especially because at that point, there's another company that had really established kind of a monopoly on
Yeah.
restoration early on. And they had great guys, they had great marketers. They'd really kind of solidified their presence in the market.
Mhm.
And here you have two, young, pesky guys trying to get into a market. So it took time.
It took time, yeah.
Well,
and-
you
Resiliency.
guys didn't have any, I mean, really like sales background. And
No,
for you,
not at all.
Robert, you've always been outgoing, like not shy at all. You would go up
Yeah.
and talk to, you had friends everywhere. You go talk to any girls, anything like that was growing up. You were not shy. Ben, you were a little bit more reserved
Very
from
much so.
like between the two. Like it was a little bit of a yin and yang scenario, but you learned the sales from when you'd worked for John and had to go and sell those jobs, or
I
where did you get the sales aspect? Because that's the part that I've seen in business. Or if you guys would have went to dental school, you go to dental school and they teach you how to be a dentist, but you still have to get customers in the door. So you guys now knew how to run the jobs, but now there was this marketing sales side of a company to generate business. And in my eyes, it's a completely different arm of the company or a completely different skill set.
Yeah. I wouldn't say I was a good salesman. I mean, I was confident and I was uh, persistent, I guess you would say. But, when I had to sell these jobs as a 17, 18-year-old in high school to customers, immediately when I knocked on the door, they would look at me and ask, like, how old are you? You know what I mean? Like, who sent you here? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I would have to,
The sale is I'm going to trust you to fix my house.
yes, yes. Yeah. And so at that point I had to win them over by, hey, I'd tell them, I'd be honest. I'm 18 years old, but let's take a look at what you got, and I'd just be confident, and I knew my stuff. So within a few minutes I would have them like, okay, this kid's knows what he's doing. And then I would win him over, but so I didn't have any sales training. It was just more, I was pretty confident in what I did. And I knew a lot about the industry at that point, because I worked a year and a half before my mission and so forth. So when I'd go to talk to these, plumbers and stuff like that, it was persistence. I would, the first guy we had, I met with him probably 4 or 5 different times. Remembered his name. I'd say hi to him every time I saw him at a gas station. And after a while, I think he respected, hey, this kid's hustling. We'll give him a shot. And then once I had the shot, we weren't losing him. You know what I mean? Like, I was not letting him down. And that's one thing I pride myself on, and still to this day, is we do what we say we're going to do. We're honest, we're trustworthy, and we want to help our referral partners out however we can.
Yeah.
And so, I still remember the first phone call I got, and I still remember, he was it. So I would meet him at jobs when he was there, and I'd help him out as much as I could with his plumbing, whatever situation. And I would sell the job, and it was just a good relationship, and it was pretty cool. Yeah. But I think being persistent is what got me to get the trust and give me a chance, but it was not because I looked like I knew the part. I had a nice truck. It was just more being persistent.
Yeah. Ben, you mentioned that you remember the first yes. Take me now, fast forward a little bit. The business is running. Tell me the conversation that you guys had around, all right, we've got to choose. This is getting busy enough. We either go to dental school and at some point we got to sell this thing or give it to someone else, or
that's
dental school's out of the...
Yeah, probably about a year and a half after the first yes. Things got rolling. We established clientele.
So I want timeline just for people starting a company that they had. So company's existence is roughly opened a year before Robert gets involved. Mm-hmm. Robert comes home. You get your first yes with your own plumber inside of 6 months, 4 months, 3 months.
3 or 4 months.
So now we're not quite at the 18-month mark to where now you're going to have your own referral source where you're going to scale. And now a year after that,
probably about a year and a half. So I'd had 2 years of schooling, right? About a year and a half, so about 3.5, maybe 4 years. I had to start to study for the DAP, right? Yeah. So
that's when it got real, because we were able to piggyback. But like, once you go to dental school, you're going away. You can't run a company. And so, and do what we were doing, and probably we were most likely to have to move away to a different state. So that's when I think the conversation started.
So what ended up actually happening is we were busy. I could no longer handle my workload, study for the DAT, continue my school load, right? Because they're doing that simultaneously. I had to focus to get a good score on the DAT. So I'd paid for the Kaplan, right, the study program. And I went to Rob and I said, hey, look, I'm going to take a semester off to focus on. I'm going to have to score well to, start applying for dental school. And at that point, Rob's earlier on his prerequisites. He's not in the higher
2 years
level classes. And so he's like, sure, I'll take it on. So we actually worked out a reduction on what my percentage would be. And I stepped away. And as I stepped away, I was, I enjoyed it for a minute, right? Had a break, had time to actually focus, because it's hard going to, you're in your OChem class and you've got, you're 24, 25 at this time, and you're next to 18-year-olds that don't work, that have their school paid for, and that's their daily goal. And I'm running out of class taking phone calls, right? From referral partners and customers, and trying to go back and forth. So that was the first moment I actually was able to be a student and just be a student rather than, business and student juggle going on.
Yeah, the
And
phone's forwarded
yeah,
to Rob.
yeah, phones.
Like you got a
phone,
new.
phone- yeah, Rob's
it's
handling stuff.
I was running it. He pretty
I'm-
much
I stepped away.
I stepped away.
I stepped away. What's ironic about that is when I stepped away, that's probably where I received the clarity, right? Is I missed what I did. And probably helped that we had our best couple months ever, right? And I think the percentage difference, it was a great couple months. We had some big jobs. I think Robert ended up making like 40 or 50 grand more than me in that amount of time, those couple of months. And
I just needed a break from him, man. I took it off.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right,
you
that's
finally
right.
got cut some of
That's
the
right.
dead
I
weight.
was-
This is.
I was sandbagging the
No.
business, obviously, right?
No, we just had some bigger jobs. It was good.
We had some great jobs come through, and as a result, missing it and seeing the money that I wasn't making, and then it kind of was that life moment where I thought, I don't know if I'm going to enjoy being a dentist. I miss what I was doing, and we've kind of built something that we could go full time into. And so I can remember it was hard because I was 18 credits short from graduating. So I'm on the finish line. I'm well into studying for the DAT. So I'd put in all the work. So it's kind of hard to let go of that, right? But like I knew what I needed to do. And that's when I called Robert and I said, hey, you want to be done with dental school and just go into this full time? And it didn't take much convincing. Right.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
Yeah. And so
No, it was a harder decision than
Yeah.
than looking back than people would think. But like plan A was always dental school because that's what we thought was going to be most successful. But by doing both, our plan B turned into our plan A,
And
and we were making good money at that point. It was and probably had we not been making good money, it would have been not probably a decision we would have made. But luckily we were in it by like 2.5, 3 years now at that point, almost. No, 2.5 years, maybe that probably. And it started to turn a little bit, and we started to see, hey, we're making movements that this could potentially be bigger than what we thought it ever could be.
gain momentum. One thing that I, as I look back though, right, and some might say, well, it was a waste of time. You wasted almost 4 years of your life going to school, or you could have just focused on your business. Not at all. It led me to a point where I was confident on what I wanted to do, right? I was confident I wanted to do dental school, but stepping away and knowing what I had, it made me know that I made the right decision. So then when we did make that leap and quit going to school, we were 100%. There was no afterthought. It was time to go on it.
Yeah.
And it really energized us and
Yeah.
gave us what we needed to go into it. It was really cool, you
Yeah.
know? So I'm glad I went to school. I'm glad it taught
I
us
had
a
no
lot
regrets.
of valuable lessons in life.
Ben wasted 2 more years of his life. So
Yeah,
Did-
that's right.
Well, listen, tell me the particulars around that formation at that point. When you said that you worked out a reduction and then you come back around and it's like, no, let's go do this together. Let's drop the dead weight. I'm using those words, not you. The extra responsibility that school was having at the time. Let's remove that. Let's give it everything we've got, full focus. Tell me around your agreements. And the reason being, was this a handshake deal? Did you
Yeah.
guys sit down with an attorney and draft an operating agreement around it?
No,
Like
yeah.
what was this agreement that you're speaking of like, let's go do this full time together?
2 young kids learning on the fly. That's how we always
no
operated.
operating agreement, no
operating
an
agreement.
LLC with a couple names put on there as members.
And
That's
you
all
at
it
least had
was.
that part? Like you guys were both on the LLC
yeah,
together?
Yeah. So so that given I don't know if I'd recommend that for everybody, but we're trustworthy people.
brothers.
We're brothers.
Yeah.
Relationships are most important, and we get along. We see eye to eye in most things, and so we never had hesitations on that, But outside that, it's probably a good idea you do it right from the beginning because
Reflecting on the way that we started, right? There's a million different ways to make $1 million. There's
Yeah.
a million different ways to start a company. You can
Yeah.
go do the research. You can go get, finance and do everything. We were not that way. We would save up, do what we could. We would learn on the fly often. The confidence we had wasn't confidence in our ability or our skill at that moment. It was that we could learn it.
Yeah.
That if we worked hard enough, that we would be able to succeed in what we wanted.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I think
Which
propelled
expedites
us.
your learning, to be honest with you. I
Yeah.
mean, like you learn quicker when you just get thrown into it. And a lot of it was learned through bad decisions or mistakes, or, you know what I mean? But, you typically don't make the same mistake twice when it hurts you, And so, yeah, I mean, we're not the smartest ones out there. We were hardworking. We were confident, and we're just doing the best we could. And yeah, we made plenty of mistakes, but like
School of hard knocks.
School
We
of hard
we
knocks, that's
learn
it.
by mistakes.
Learn by
And I think
mistakes.
often that is business, and people, they're afraid of mistakes. They're afraid of going into something and having failures. We failed at a lot of different things
Yeah.
in it. But overall, if you're succeeding and you're moving forward, it's a really neat thing.
Yeah.
Right. And if you think back on now that we've been in business, it's 18 years now, right? That we've had DryLux and HyperBuilt. The exciting, fun times that we cherish the most were those hard times,
Yeah.
were those mistakes. That's what kind of gets you fired up, right? Gets you feeling the chills like, man, those were cool times.
Yeah.
The sacrifice that went into it, the challenges we were faced to. So it's something that I don't think we'd realize in the time, right? When on those hard days or the struggles where you're like, oh, and 15 years from now, you're going to look back and those are going to be your favorite moments. But it turns into that.
Yeah.
It really
the
does.
confidence builders
Yeah.
of getting through something that you didn't exactly see how you were going to do it, but knowing that you got through it.
The things that we thought were the end of the world when we first started our business, we deal with on a daily basis now, and it doesn't phase us. It's just you have to experience certain aspects to be a good business owner, and I feel like you got to experience it, and it's not usually easy, but it's a must, right, to be able to learn and grow.
Yeah. So you said something I think I'm curious about is that the first major fire happens. And I'll use an example, but it could be like dropping the ball and missing out on a job that could have been, a higher scale paying job, or, one of you forgetting to do something that was costly to the business. Can each of you dive into how you have chosen to navigate those hard conversations and then show up to a family outing at the same evening, or like, I'm just curious on how you guys have
Absolutely.
chosen to
Yeah.
have the hard conversations. Like, are you the brothers that
Rob and
you
I
go
are
and
very,
fight and then shake hands after, or are you just, what's
we're
your,
very different. If you
We
ask
are.
anybody that knows us, we're very different, which
Yeah.
is interesting, right? Where I think
I
that
think we complement each other, but
we
we're
do
very
complement
different.
each other.
We're very different.
we realize that more than one person can be right, and so we can give each other our strong opinions, and if you want to use the word fight or argue or disagree strongly, we can do that, and 10 minutes later we've got enough respect, and I know Rob's great at what he does. I know he adds a ton to the table.
Yeah.
So I know what he's saying, even though it might not be my view, it's valuable. And we're able to kind of make a decision and go forward. We don't
Yeah.
get stuck up on the pride part of we're going to do it because it's my way. We've always been that way.
And
Yeah.
we've always respected each other, and the key thing to it is be able to get over when you disagree and not hold on to it or make it a bigger deal, but we definitely handle situations better than we did in the very beginning. It was not peachy every single day. We would have our fights, not every day or anything like that, but we would have our disagreements more often in the beginning.
High pressure situations
and-
with a family member that
Yep.
you're as close to as anyone
Yep.
on the planet.
Yep.
Like there's going to be, you can be your complete self. You guys know each other. There's no,
Yep.
being somebody in the workplace and then not being that same person. Like you guys have an experience. I just imagine that there were times, and I was just curious, like, did you guys make a decision that one of you was a senior officer? When it came down to it, one of you had the decision-making power, or, what was, if you had any of like the secret sauce to navigating that? And Rob, you said essentially having a short memory, not grudge holding or whatever it may be. And Ben, I heard you say something along the lines of like, remove the pride or the ego out of it and trust in your business partner. Do you have anything else that you'd share on navigating difficult conversations and then on to the next play?
Yeah, ego's got to be gone, and we both work hard. We're committed 100%. And so that helps. But we had different strengths, and we saw most of the time we agreed on most things. But, when things went wrong, we always teamed up and we tackled it together. We always had each other back. We didn't point blame. We didn't do anything. It was
No
mostly
finger pointing.
no finger
Yeah.
pointing at all,
What
which
needs
is
to be done? See a need, fill a
yeah,
need.
I got
Yeah.
you got me. Like we're both figuring it out. We're doing the best we can, and no finger pointing. It was appreciation and support, right? That's kind of and that, that's kind of how we were raised too. We were raised, you know,
Very
don't
supportive parents.
very supportive
Mhm.
parents. That's why we support each other. You know what I mean? And very forgiving parents, very understanding parents, and very and so that helped. That definitely helped. But um, our personalities are different, but they complement each other. Ben's gonna worry about things 10 times more than I am, certain aspects that I'm just like, it's not a big deal, and then I'm gonna, be a little bit more helpful on the technical side of things or handling some situations that he might, you know, that he might have the knowledge on. And we complement each other on our weaknesses and, the things that he's worrying about. I'm thankful because those things could blow up in our face if we don't
We never
fix 'em,
went into it
and
like this
it's
is your responsibility and this is my
Mhm.
responsibility. We both have our strengths. We both have our weaknesses.
Even to
And
this
so,
day, like people are like, well, what do you do? What do you do? We're like, we do the same thing.
yeah, very
You
much
know?
the same thing, but different, right? And so, kind of like where it just naturally, organically shaped our partnership, right? It wasn't like going in day one, this is your responsibility, this is mine. I'm not going to cross the line. You
Yeah.
don't cross yours.
And
We both pull our weight. It was more like if there's something to do, we'll do it. And it really, I think, helped us just support each other,
Yeah.
right?
What's the philosophy on one of you is doing something that you don't agree is useful for the company in that moment? Is there a time of the week that you guys meet and that's where you save that conversation for? Is it a pick up the phone
No.
right then and there? Is it call each other out? Like, what's your approach to, man, I don't think that that's going to serve the company?
We're in the service industry. We're in restoration. It's instant. It's if there's something
No, we
I'd call.
we
Yeah, it
we
was.
get it figured out and we handle it, and there's no special meeting. We discuss everything in a meeting and like anything like that. We're communicating with each other all day, so
Yeah.
but I mean there's no scorekeeping with us. There's no, hey, I worked this many hours, you worked that many hours. We were both 100% committed. That's what mattered. And because of that, it wasn't a tally of, hey, who worked this many hours, who's at the office more, who did more, set up on more jobs, who did, it was never a tally of that situation. It was just more appreciation and trying to do our best to make it win,
Yeah.
Partnerships can be hard,
Yeah.
right?
Go ahead.
If you look at the success rate of partnerships, it's really low. But one thing I would say with us and what we've learned is it's work ethic. Align somebody similar in work ethic, right, and values, and you'll be all right. Like there's many things that we've done together that we couldn't have done on our own,
Yeah.
right? But that wasn't something that I went in and does Rob meet this on the checkbox or this on the checkbox? No, I just knew Rob was my brother and he would work. If it is an 18-hour day and he needs to go to 22 hours, he will do it. I knew I was the same way, right? So I think aligning somebody that shares the work ethic that you do, at least in our situation, was probably the most driving force in getting us to where we
Because
are.
anything else, if he's working as hard as he can, I'm working as hard as I can. Even if we make the bad decision, we're doing the best we can.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a big thing. We were both willing to give it all.
Yeah.
And it made it easier on everything else because of that.
I'd call Rob early on in the business and we're just drained and say, hey, we got this job, we got to go, or we got this problem. It was never like, can't you just handle it? It's like, let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Vice versa. It was the commitment to the grind that we shared the same vision, and that got us to where we needed to be and not focus on what he's doing or what I'm not doing or anything. It really kind of gives you the ability to get past a lot of the weeds, right?
Yeah.
If you're focused on the work and not what he's doing or not the way he's doing it, but you're just focused on going forward and working hard, it takes a lot of the fluff out of it. It takes a lot of the problems out of it, the stuff that doesn't need to be in a partnership.
Yeah.
Most things that ruin a partnership are probably pretty minor. It's just grow and grow and turn into bigger problems, right? Personalities, comments, the way somebody does something. It's just, it doesn't need to be that way.
Tell me how you guys have interacted around spouses. One thing that I feel that I've observed with partnerships is that oftentimes I've seen a spouse say something along the lines of, well, why can't they do that? Like, and where that domain tends to be in, you just sat down for a dinner with the family, or you're at the party and you're on your phone, and it's like they're craving the attention, or for you to be present or whatever it may be. And there's sometimes that's not available when you're starting a business or you're growing a business or whatever it may be. I mean, how many employees do you guys have today?
About 90.
90 employees. Like, the phone's ringing constantly. How do you navigate why is it you having to take this phone call? Why doesn't he do it? Or why I don't feel like they're working as hard as you, or who's working. Like, there seems to be oftentimes you're their spouse, so they're looking at you as, and they see all that you put into it. They're not always seeing the other person. How have you found any navigation? And I think it's more particular because you guys are brothers as well, so you're now at family events and those kind of things.
Yeah, and first off, we both have very amazing wives that support us. Yeah, that's the most important thing. You need a wife that's going to support you to be
Great
successful.
wives, yes.
And
I've seen that. I've seen you guys leave the family events to go cover the work, and it's like, cool, I got the kid. Like, I've seen that.
And
couldn't have done it without him. Yeah.
We've purposely made all decision makings between me and Ben. Like, our wives, we can discuss what the decision is, but from the very beginning, we've kept them out of the decision making in the business because it would just it would be harder,
I'd say the relationship's triangular, right?
Yeah. And so,
Rob and his wife, me and my wife, but we've kept those separate and have Rob and I's relationship.
Yeah.
And we've kept the business Rob and I's relationship.
And
it doesn't mean that we don't have those relationships and those conversations
with
or
our wives,
or maybe those circumstances do come up, but we've kept that to where it doesn't come between us and our working relationship.
And our wives are best friends.
Yeah,
we live on the same street. Our kids are best friends. Like, we work each other nonstop, and so naturally our wives are gonna, and our wives, let's be very clear, do not agree with every decision we make together.
Yeah.
Most of the time they probably disagree with it, but they also respect and understand the situation, and because of it, it's it's not what I say, is it easy? No, it's not easy, but it's great. Like, it's good. Like, our wives are very supportive. They are best friends, and even when they disagree, they don't let it affect anything other than a conversation, and then let us kind of make the decision and support us in it.
You use the reference of like the three triangles, almost like, your guys have each of your relationships with your spouse, and then you have your relationship. When it looks like any of those are going to cross over via you guys working at let's call it a kid's birthday party, and you two go off in the corner and you're both on speakerphone in the corner, and one of you's taking notes and sending the other job out to there, and there's a scenario to it. Do you have anything that you use frequently? Like, is it hey, I'm not going to expect you to understand, I'm just going to ask you to trust me, or is it is there, how have you kept those separate?
Sounding boards, right? That's where we've kept it separate. Like, Steph and I, we're in it together on each other, right? And Rob and Meg, where I think we've kept it apart is like, there's going to be moments where you feel that way, or maybe one person feels like they're working harder, or one person feels like a decision isn't. But we've kept that very separate because Rob and I know that our relationship cannot be shaken by that. We get along well enough, and we're aligned close enough that even if he does something that I don't like, right, or even if he makes a different decision that I don't agree with, that at the end of the day, we're gonna still have a strong relationship and work to bring the business forward.
Yeah.
There's trust there. We've
trust
never been
there,
dishonest with each other.
right?
We've been very transparent.
We've never brought it in to where the wives are such an intricate part of the business that now we have 4 of us to maintain that relationship,
that-
right?
that-
We've kind of kept it separate where I'm
that-
sure
it would
that
be a lot
there's-
more difficult if we
Yeah,
did. I mean,
it
like
would
would
be.
be a lot more difficult, and because of it, we've kept them out of it. They're best friends.
Yeah.
They get along. And because of it,
And when I say keep
is-
them out of it, right? I don't want to get in
No.
trouble with the wives because
No,
they are amazing and they did help on.
They've been
out.
involved at some point too. I
Very
remember
much so.
payroll
Yeah.
and other
Yeah.
at certain
So
points in
We
the
got
business
to
they've
where
been.
we are because our wives helped us
Very-
in the original parts of the business, right? As we grew and as we scaled and as we had children, the roles kind of shifted, but it was kind of a natural progression that really allowed them to maintain their friendship and Rob and I to hone in on our strengths and
and being a wife of a restoration person is not the easiest thing
It's
to
not
do.
glorious.
So I mean, they can relate and talk about it because you're even when you're there 50% of the time because you're on the phone, you're dealing with it
24/7,
24/7.
365.
So I think our wives built a relationship where they can vent and communicate on how demanding this job is.
Yeah.
And also they don't have to deal with the day-to-day decisions to a point to where they have to worry about it, and so nothing to take away. My wife has everything that we do in the business. I do have conversations, but I do want to get her opinions and so forth like that. She's not in the meeting with me and Ben when we're having these meetings.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like I said, it's she sees eye to eye on some things, she doesn't on other things, but she does respect what decision I go with and does support me on it.
Yeah.
And it's thankfully it's we have that relationship because I would not be where I'm at today if I didn't have a supportive wife.
For sure. Well, it brings up another question I have. Use the example that your brother John chose to essentially shut off the business in evening hours because it didn't align for the lifestyle that he wanted to live. You guys don't do that. You guys
Embraced
cover
it,
jobs
embraced,
and you
yeah.
cover, I mean, it feels like you cover every inch of Arizona. I know your guys' teams go and they cover. What's been your go-to to get sleep? Is it, I know that you guys use like a call forwarding option. Is it I'm going to be out of town or this weekend's yours or whatever? Like, how have you guys navigated a 24-hour operating
we
business?
used to kind of schedule things as
Yeah,
we've
no.
grown. We've got dispatchers.
Well, we got help now.
We've got
so,
help
but,
now.
I mean,
But
I will still
originally-
answer my phone at 3 a.m. though. So it's
Call
and
us
it's
at 3
still-
a.m. We're still committed.
Mhm.
It's
I mean, does that look like I've just seen it. Does that look like a 10 a.m. nap? Is that did you get guys used to get functioning on 3 hours of sleep and you never really slept at all? I mean, I've just seen it. Rob, we've been in different time zones.
Yeah.
And your phone rings and it's like,
Oh,
geez,
yeah.
what time is it in Arizona? It's
go to
2
Hawaii is
a.m.
not
or
fun,
whatever it
right?
may
You're
be.
getting the phone calls when you don't want to be, right? The difference in time zone. I think what happens is
we're just used to it.
we're used to it, and that's kind of made us what we are. Is always saying yes and always being able to work. That's why we succeeded. So
Good
it's something that
attitude.
we've definitely embraced, and I do feel like now that I'm getting older, right? Because I just turned 40, that it's also something that can become habitual, maybe addicting to where you just don't shut down, right? But when you're 23, 24, even 28, 29, you can have those 18-hour days, 20-hour days, sleep 4 hours, wake up and do it again and again and again. As you get older, that's kind of been my journey the last couple of years, is to realize, there is a trade-off, right? Success, money, all that's important and it's great, but it also can overtake your life if it's your number one priority, right? Don't want to take away in the beginning and the drive and getting there, but once you get to a place that you feel comfortable or sufficient for your needs, or you've hit, like my brother hit his spot early on, right? He knew he wanted one crew in this, and this is his lifestyle. Once you hit it, I think the real key for me is, how do you shut that off though, right?
Yeah.
After 16 years of, because the last 2 years obviously been working on it, of yes, grind, no rest, no fun, like everything you do is planned around work. And that's been an interesting journey for me. I don't know about you, Rob, but it's definitely been something where I'm trying to now balance in quality of life.
Yeah.
I don't regret, leaving birthday parties because of a call or an emergency or stuff like that. But it's something that now I'm getting to a point in my life that I no longer need to do that. But you also have to come to realize that you have to become self-aware that there will become a point in your business where you don't have to do everything, right? Where you can delegate, that you can trust, you don't have to micromanage. And I think that was a hard part for me, right? Because here I'm like, we're successful because I work 80 hours a week. And if I don't work 80 hours a week, and if I don't leave that party, we won't be successful. Well, guess what? I started that journey. I started backing off, even though it's completely against my OCD personality. And the business is fine, right? And so I kind of created this narrative in my mind that I had to be on the grind 24/7.
Yeah.
And if you do that, we went to lunch, and what started this, we went to lunch with a really great guy. Didn't know him very well. His name's Jason Bingham. I'm going to name drop him because he was a big part of this decision. He said, I know a lot of people who are super successful that kept on the grind. They're in their mid 60s. They have more money than they will ever know what to do with, but they have no hobbies. They don't have family, and their joy is work. And it kind of hit me, and I was like, not there, but I'm kind of going down that trail. And it took me back, and I said, yeah, like what is life for, right? And so, and that's not for everybody. I mean, there's people out there that's what they want. That's not what I want. I want to make a living, a comfortable living. I want to provide for my family. But in doing that, I kind of became lost to where I was headed down a track that could put me right there where he was talking about, 65 with no hobbies, right? Jeopardizing family relationships because you're prioritizing. So it was kind of a great lesson to me the last couple of years. And it's proof, right? I did take a step back, still involved, but I didn't do what I was doing before. And I've still been able to see the business operate at 100%.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of a cool thing for me. I was probably doing stuff at a level that I didn't need to be doing for years. And had I not had that lunch meeting and not like had that epiphany, I'd still be doing it.
Yeah.
That's why he's a good business partner, man. He doesn't want to ever stop. Man.
Yeah, this is a good scenario.
He never has to stop working, man. So
well, and it sounds like it, Ben, from conversations that you wouldn't trade that because of what it was able to do. Although that work for that decade of getting it to a certain place, to have an option at 40 years old, to have, I like the term job optional. You can go right now and you can put in as much work as you want, and there's not enough hours in the day, and there's plenty of work to be done. You can also now feel comfortable, leaving out of the country for a week and not feeling like everything's going to be burnt to the ground when you come back.
Correct.
Because that's another thing you guys did together. Like, you guys travel a lot together. The reason I'm diving into it, for anyone that's listening right now, I'll put a stamp on this, is that these two have the most successful partnership that I've ever witnessed. And if you guys are okay, I'll tell a couple examples of that.
Sure.
If you guys have been clients, and have invested, if I'm talking to one of you, I might as well be talking to the other. And you guys have shared investments. You guys have shared, essentially, it occurs for me almost as like operated everything together. You guys have assets that you have together. It's unbelievable how you guys can be so intertwined yet have these separate lives. It's been amazing what you've created, and that's where I was just curious on how you're able to do that.
Yeah, and here's the thing: a bad partnership can be bad, but a great partnership can be even greater. And we are fortunate enough that we have a great partnership, and it gets better with time.
Yeah.
It is funny. You're not the only one to say that. Everybody, we're synonymous often, Ben and Rob, right? Our names, just because they know.
Even people in our office, they'll not get the answer they want from me, so they'll go to Ben and try to get Ben to give them a different answer. Like, dang it.
Yeah.
So
but over the years, we've become a true partnership, right? We've come closer together, and it's been a huge blessing in our lives.
Yeah.
The key to being a good partner is to have appreciation, forgive when they make mistakes, and match their work work ethic.
Yeah.
You know, if you see they're working harder, try to step it up a little bit, show some appreciation there, you know, and you know, appreciate them, you know. But you know, luckily we were pretty successful, and you know, we've kind of all, you know, been going, you know, steadily, you know, so money does help when you're making money and stuff like that. But and then after doing that years of communicating and seeing the success and stuff, we learned that, hey, by putting our heads together, making the decisions we've been making, it works. And so it gets easier and easier the longer we do it.
Yeah. Just to give people a scale of growth over that period, do you guys remember, you mentioned that first job, or getting one extra job a week, or giving away free labor so you can have an extra job a week? Do you remember the most amount of jobs you had in a day, or the most amount of jobs you had in a month?
I think the one
I
that
don't know.
stands out to me would probably be weekly record. You know, maybe
Ben probably has better memory
I
on these
track
things.
that more, the OCD part. I think little story there. I can remember when we first started, there's a local company here we talked about had a monopoly, and we were talking to an adjuster, and it was around Christmas time. There was a freeze, and it was like on a Friday. So
very small at this
we're
point.
day
We're just-
5. We're small at this point. We're day 5 into the week. And I was talking to the adjuster. He's like, I gotta go. He goes, it's been a crazy week. I just talked to this company, and they've already done 35 jobs this week. And I can remember I hung up the phone, and I even called Rob. I'm like, how could you logistically ever do 35 dry outs in a week? Right? Like, my limited vision. I was like, no way. He's exaggerating. And so that was our vision at that time.
Mhm.
Now, you know, we average close to 60 a week, right? Our heaviest week's 100. We've got there, but it took work, time, and process, right? Like, what we thought was impossible was, but at that moment it really was impossible for us. If you'd thrown 60 jobs at us, we would have sunk. Absolutely sunk.
Yeah.
But with just sticking through it, learning,
We've had slow growth.
Yeah, slow growth. We've been able to do it and get there. But it is kind of interesting you say that, because I can remember it really took me back at that moment, like, not possible. So we were able to accomplish what we thought was impossible, not because we're geniuses. It's just sticking with it, right?
Staying with it.
Sticking with it, working hard, and letting the business grow.
Yeah. There's 2 questions I'm curious about in 2 domains that you guys have operated in. You now have a little brother that's in the business and has had other family members participate. So you've got a sister that works with you currently,
Two father-in-laws.
My father-in-law, his father-in-law work with us.
2 father-in-laws. You've had a brother-in-law that participates in some way, shape, or form around construction, and then
Multiple
you have
brother-in-laws has worked with us. Yeah.
multiple brothers. You have, and then a
Nieces,
little brother
nephews.
that has a whole separate company in the same field. Was there a time that he came to you and said, hey, I want to be involved, I'm your brother, cut me in, that you guys had to turn him away? Or was it, how do you help him get
No,
off the ground?
unfortunately,
Like,
he was
how did you navigate
Unfortunately, he was 2 years younger than me. You know what I mean? So,
By the time
that? Ship had left the harbor at that point?
By the time he'd come home from his service mission, we were already far down the road. And so it wasn't like he was going to hop on and
like, we compliment him in many
Yeah,
different ways. Like,
the cool thing
I'm
about
very
that-
impressed that he's been able to do what he's been able to do without.
super
without-
supportive of him.
I had been.
He's
with, you know,
done
and so-
great, and he's
and
done it on his own. Yeah.
He's still our best friend, and we still communicate with him all the time.
Called
and,
him
you know,
yesterday to
we
ask
still
him
talk to him.
about something
You know,
referring to
it's great.
restoration.
There's no competition there at all
Yeah.
with either one of our brothers. You
Yeah.
know that had companies, and it's just we get along, and I try to get along with everybody in the industry. I don't need no
So
enemies or stuff.
Even
It's just,
family aside, there's enough work in any market that if you're focused on the other competitor and what they're doing and not doing, it's not going to let you grow. It's going to.
I love that concept.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Your focus is in the wrong wrong
places.
channel. If you channel your focus to your growth, and so with Spencer,
we've had-
like we don't compete with each other. We don't have the same referral partners. He's been able to build a business completely separate than ours. When John had his, we didn't affect John's business at all. Talking about Jarvis and Slate, his business doesn't affect us at all. Even if somebody's in an industry, they do not have to be an enemy. They can be a friend, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to take their work to be successful. Go find your own work, because if they're in a successful industry, there's work out there, right?
Yeah, I love that. And can I ask if you have any pre-conversations with family? I think right now you guys have, or at least the last couple of years have had, double-digit family members working for you or with you in some way, shape, or form. I mean, I've even had a few nephews working for you guys and all that kind of stuff. Do you have any like precursor conversations with them around, you're not going to get any special treatment if you don't do your job, we will move on from you? Or is it difficult? You guys shy away from those conversations? Because in my experience, it seems like it's, again, another part of this concept that's not the stereotype. Be careful working with family. You guys have cracked this code. I feel like it's benefited the business. I feel like the family members are grateful for the opportunities.
Yeah.
And it's been this really
We've
cool
had family
ecosystem
members that worked with us that didn't work out. Families forever. That's our thing. So even if they're not working out, why would you end it badly?
Yeah.
Right? Like, be more patient, be more understanding. We have never ruined a family relationship over work. Not worth it. Take my work. Don't perform, whatever. And I think that's really important to us. Family's big, right? And if you have that at heart, and that doesn't even have to be family, it could be friends or even just employees in general. If you're understanding and empathetic and you really put yourself in their shoes, you will not end a relationship. You will not spoil something. And I'm fortunate for that, because we do operate with a lot of family around, but it's made our relationship stronger. We made us appreciate them even more, right?
Yeah.
And so it's been actually a really great thing.
Yeah, I don't know. The longer we do it, the easier it is to do it. But with family, there's always going to be something that comes up, right? But it's just the way you handle and address it. And if it's just but treat them like they're supposed to be treated, and respect them, and don't expect overly them to do more than the next person or anything like that, then there's no reason it shouldn't work out.
I think that's one of the biggest lessons we've learned throughout the time, is that not just family, with any employee, when you're not as critical on them, and you talk to them and you show them that you care, they perform 10x.
Yeah.
It's true. Like there'll be employees to this day where we handle things completely different than we would day one.
Even to this day, like, if I have an employee that hates his job, that hurts me. Like, I don't want to have someone that works with us that can't find happiness in what we're doing. And that, like, I would just say, hey, like, if you're not, like, what can we do better to how to make it work? But if we can't make it work, like, I support you in whatever decision you make. Like, I want you to, I don't want people to show up to work and be miserable.
Yeah.
I enjoy now watching, junior technicians, become senior technicians, to become, project managers. I enjoy more of that, and seeing people grow and learn and within the company, than I do getting a paycheck, and, we've had plenty of people that have left and started their own companies. They're still friends. We still communicate with them. They're a support system. We can kick ideas off them, and, we don't look at everyone as a big competitor. You know what I mean? We stick in our lane, we do what we do. And guess what? These people don't want to take our work.
Yeah.
When they leave, they appreciate us and they look to us as friends, and they don't want to go try to put us out of business. They don't want to go try to steal our contacts. They want to keep the friendship,
What a cool culture.
Mm-hmm.
You guys do something that is pretty unique in the world today, and especially in my world. But it is my understanding that you guys don't carry debt. And I think that somebody could sit where I'm sitting and saying, man, how has that stunted your growth? And don't you realize you could be doing this? And if you wouldn't have paid cash for your buildings and your cars and those kind of things, and like, what could you have done with that money? And you could extend and leverage and what that could look like. Can you take me behind the philosophy of not participating? It doesn't mean you've never participated in it, but and I guess I don't know the answer to that. Maybe you have never participated in it, but it's my understanding that you have a belief system or a philosophy around, if we can afford it and afford to pay cash for it, we will buy it. And if we can't, we won't. And how that philosophy came about.
I think it started out right. We were, if we can't afford it, we won't buy it. But we sacrificed for that. We had employees making more than us when we started because we would reinvest, right? Instead of making more, upgrading our house or our cars when we could have, we used that to grow the business. Yep. And I think that concept really helped us as we did start to scale, not to jump ship early and then just start spending, in our own private lives. It kept us with that model of, hey, like, take it, but this business is going to make you more money if you put money back into it.
Yeah, and not to say our way and the way we've done things is the right way. It's just with our risk level and tolerance, that's just how we operated, and that's just kind of what we stuck to. And, one thing that allowed that is we would, no matter how good the business did, me and Ben have always taken a paycheck and it's standardized and it's pretty much enough to cover our costs. And by doing so, it gave us capital to continue to grow the business. And yeah, hindsight, if we could have put more money in this, that, and took debt on, yeah, we could be double our size maybe, but I don't think twice about that. I'm very happy with where we're at, and I'm very
Help me
confident.
understand that.
I
Like,
don't
that's
second
easy
guess it.
today. I want to know you guys, to have 90 employees and to have that fleet and those kind of things, there had to be the temptation of taking home double or triple the money or paying off these assets. And is it a sleep well at night factor? Is it a complete risk? If everything, burned to the ground, you guys would be okay? Like, tell me, I just want to hear the psychology around.
We're conservative.
And
Okay.
I think by taking a salary and keeping it a modest salary that covered our bills, kept us grounded. So, and we take our draws when we would take our draws, and they'd be substantial, whatever. But at that point, we would usually want to put that money and invest in something. We wouldn't want to go buy the cars. We wouldn't go buy we were just, and so I think by staying grounded, by taking a modest salary, we didn't, hey, we have a good month. We
never stressed the business out by our
never
decisions in our
stretched.
personal life. We waited, right?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
We waited till the time was right. And what I mean by that is we didn't go out early and buy a bigger house or buy more cars or buy boats or, vacation properties. We focused on the business because the business is what was generating our livelihood.
Yeah.
And we treated that. And after doing it enough time, then yeah, there is extra, right? You don't have to put everything back into the company, but we didn't, as soon as there were profits and it was doing well, we didn't think like, how quickly can we get to the bank with that and what can we buy with it? We thought, how can we use this to grow and where does it need to be used to grow? And I think that mindset allowed us to continue. Now, don't get me wrong. We were probably ultra conservative. There's probably a great balance there that we didn't ever, but for us,
I don't care about anyone else in their philosophy. I'm more curious on like, man, what has been the benefit to you guys that as you guys have seen it from having a conservative approach? Or Rob, you reference risk tolerance. Mm-hmm. I've seen it. I've seen you look at opportunities that friends were going into that you passed on, or because it just didn't align. Like, tell me where
it's never.
I'm sure we could always take an other side.
Right?
Is that the bottom thing?
Stressed. Yeah, like we have enough stress. We're emergency service in the service industry, and there's a lot of stress. We never had to stress about, are we going to make that payment? Can we afford that? Is this the right decision?
Because there aren't
Oh,
payments.
There
Yeah,
aren't.
no, and
There
also
weren't. And so
also you go in a slow season, you lose a contact, you lose some jobs coming in, you park a truck, couple of trucks, and maybe have to let go of a couple employees, but you're great. You're not in a bad spot. So I think with us, not just learning as we go and stuff like that, you know, it just made most sense to us,
Yeah.
and but I mean, with that being said, our first truck I had that I used, my parents co-signed for me. I didn't have no credit, that we financed that.
we didn't start
you know
out
what I
with
mean?
the
Like,
best.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
like
We
like
started
that,
out with good enough.
that
Well,
truck.
you still use like
Mhm.
like you're not spending a crazy amount of money on visual marketing.
No,
No.
we've upgraded. We've become more wise on our fleet, right? And we
Yeah.
used to buy used trucks and shop for deals, and so we've been able to
It,
really understand the value in a great fleet and not having to maintain it. But as far as image and marketing and all that, we've kept it low key.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but our business was built on doing what we say we're going to do, being a good support to our referral partners, being honest, transparent, and
Having great people,
having good
having great
good
people,
people around us, good support system. I mean,
family, not family. Like
Yeah.
the reason we've been able to get to where we are is because we've had a lot of people that have
Still-
been
yeah.
on the ride with us for a long
we
time.
couldn't be where we're at without them.
Yeah.
Listen, I thought, listen, I'm gonna go start these businesses and I'm gonna go take some swings, and if all else fails, I can maybe Rob and Ben will hire me. This is
There you
great.
go.
They hire
There
all
you
the
go.
family. This
Yeah,
is all
come
good to go
aboard.
to.
We'd be twice the size if we had James McCabe. in the building, right?
Tell me, now that you've built a business in the way that you have, the knocks on this door start coming, and insert private equity companies coming in and looking around town on who's got service industries, and a real popular thing is these roll-ups, and you guys obviously have a massive presence in the state. Tell me what you've learned through private equity companies coming and showing interest into your business, and how you're looking at a business these days compared to when you first started. Because we've had conversations now around EBITDA.
Mhm.
When did you learn what EBITDA was? And was it as a result of people coming and knocking on your door, trying to buy your business and making you these offers to become partners and those kind of things? Tell me a little bit about what you've learned since the phone started ringing in that domain.
The service industry is changing. Most big players in HVAC, plumbing, they've been acquired in the last few years. Was tech, now it's migrating to service, and most people, when they think of service, they think plumbing, AC in the valley, right? Well, restoration is kind of like a third now. And so private equity is very interested in water damage restoration. And I think a lot of it's due to the fact that the plumbing and HVAC side is drying up, right? They've got to have something that they partner with to grow, create
Yeah.
a product, right? A platform. And so it is very interesting. Give it a year ago, we had no idea what private equity was. We didn't know what EBITDA was, and we didn't know anything in that realm.
We didn't even think we could sell our business ever.
Yeah.
Like there was never.
Or why
ever
would
thought-
you?
Yeah,
Why would
I mean,
you?
it's a
Mm-hmm. And it is interesting that sure enough, the phone calls started coming pretty heavy, as every PE group has, a sales acquisition team, and they're pretty aggressive. But there's this, especially coming from a conservative background, there's this fear, right? Big money. What's their motives? What's their intentions? And does that align with who we are? So we actually had heard of a company in the valley, another restoration company that sold, and that kind of piqued our interest a little bit. Of okay, had a little chat with the owner, the founder of that, and he had a lot of great things to say about the acquisition. We explored the option. Met up with the company pretty early, not to go into great details.
Yeah.
Went through an LOI, went through the entire process, got to the 5-yard line, and at that point, there were some shifts that weren't discussed and stuff that made us uneasy. And we pulled out.
We respectfully pulled out.
We respectfully
on our
pulled
way.
out, and the relationship amicably, it was good. And at that point, I was so exhausted from the whole discovery
Process.
period, the process.
Well, it's very
of
invasive.
Providing,
Yeah, I mean, they need to come and see if they're going to write a big check. They need to look under every nook and cranny. They need to pop the hood. And what I hear from those experiences is that it is very draining as they go through a quality of earnings,
your
and they go
quality of
through.
earnings is very heavy. It's a heavy lift if you're not planning on selling. I mean, there's
Yeah.
companies that go prep for it. They hire brokers. They've been doing quality of earnings before they're even asked.
They're building
right?
to sell.
Yeah, they're building to sell. When you're going on the reverse of that, when you had no intention of selling, and then you're coming in and trying to fit an equation that
It's a
they
heavy
have,
lift.
it's a heavier lift. And so we went through that, didn't work, and I was like, we're done. We're not partnering with anybody. I'm tired. We're going to keep doing what we're doing. Rob was the one that was like, look, this could be great. We could partner with somebody. We could grow the business. They could help us grow. And things don't change. There's just a better outlook and possibility in the future.
Yeah.
And so luckily, Rob kind of stuck with it and answered a phone call that came from an actual ex-employee, old employee that
Yeah,
we
employee that
were a
started
business
his own
partner with.
business in
Yeah.
Idaho and respects us. And he called me and said, "Hey, I got a group that seems solid. Would you like to talk to them?" And another reason why you be friends with everybody, right?
Yeah.
He's not my competitor. He's a friend, and so got linked up with him. And
Met with them very
Tell me
very
this, just
skeptically
before
at
we
first.
go and just before we move on from your first experience with private equity, Rob, I've given you crap for years on, you're pulling over with your pen and paper and your notepads and, you're writing down all this. I'm like, Rob, come on, buddy, let's get you some iPads. Let's get some, there's some CRMs and stuff out there. What, and he always just had the trump card.
Mhm.
Like,
It works.
James, yeah, this is we're in this is our program. We're in such a flow right here, and it's working. And tell me one thing that each of you learned. If you were to say, man, I learned this about our company, that if we would have done this, it would have made that process go smoother. Or
Yeah,
if you were starting over today from entertaining private equity companies, that you would go to first to get in line to take on that experience.
So, I guess, so we didn't finish there, but so we met with this other group, right?
Yeah.
Alpine, and things were phenomenal from the very beginning. They had a good reputation. They had they're people. They respect family. They respect, your time. They respect everything. And so, from the very beginning to the end, when we decided to partner with them, it was a great experience. And so we're pretty fresh into this situation where you're asking all these questions.
I think your question on tech stack, CRM, stuff like that. Yeah, if we had earlier implementation of that, it would have been an easier adjustment.
Yeah.
Right.
We use tech.
But
right now, you could pull up where every one of your vehicles are. You have technology.
We use tech, but also I didn't think it hindered us much, and I would still argue that, because instead of, we had something that worked, even if it was archaic, even if it's pencil, paper contract, all that stuff, it worked, right? And by not focusing on that and focusing on growth, we're able to grow more.
Yeah.
And I think it's at a perfect time because, obviously with PE, the innovations, the tech that they will implement, it's a great thing, and we're benefiting from it. We're seeing that. Going back, I wouldn't worry as much, right? I think the biggest thing about partnering with a PE is, what do you want, right? And you have to make sure that whoever you partner with aligns just like a partnership, right? We are still
100%.
involved. We still have a lot of skin in the game. We are around. Nothing changes. Our day-to-day has not changed at all. They trust us, right? They're people first people, just like we've built our business on that.
Yeah.
And by doing that and partnering with the right partner, it's been able to add to our ability to grow. It's been able to make our lives easier, provide a better product,
Yeah.
overall that DryLux
and
offers.
which
Yeah.
offers more opportunity for our employees. And
Yeah.
it offers more,
We use the term
it-
partner,
yeah.
like they're partnering with you, not
Yep. So overall, it gives us it opened our eyes to a lot of different things that, we haven't changed our business model since day one, and it's worked. But to get to the next level, we're going to have to get better online presence. We're going to have to get into SEO. We're going to have to do all the above that all these other big service industry, big massive companies are doing. And they have the support systems, they have the knowledge, they have the,
And the experience.
the experience to do it. And, they've already, brought in some really good people to help us out that are great fits, culture fits, everything like that. And so it's still pretty fresh, but it's been great.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been awesome.
Great experience. But going back, I think the biggest thing, the one takeaway from that is making sure you're choosing the right one.
Yeah.
And you'll know that by, going through the process and go with your gut, right? And I will say it was a very unnerving experience at first.
Yeah.
Just because there is the thought of change, there is the fear of the unknown. But now that we're on the other side of it, our day-to-day hasn't changed.
Yeah.
We've got great partners, highly intelligent, experienced in growth, that offer a lot of support to us.
Yeah.
And it's been great. It's been a great thing. Our lives have been blessed.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Give me the one piece of advice a service company that has aspirations of being attractive to a PE partner comes to you and says, what's one thing I can do in my business that would make a private equity firm attractive to my business? What's one thing that you could say to them?
Have great operations.
Start here.
Yeah.
Have great operations.
Great
right?
teams.
Great teams. Great. I will be honest, when a PE firm looks to partner, they're not just looking at the founders. A big dive is into their people, especially
So like a leadership team, organization
leadership,
around.
good people
Okay.
that run the company, right? Good culture. They'll experience all that.
Yeah.
And when you have that, all the other things, EBITDA, your margins, they all align. They all
Yeah.
come together, right?
Okay.
If you have a good team, if you put out, the ability for others to thrive and to lead and to run different parts of your company, that's a big value to them.
Yeah.
They see that, hey, the company's not just hinged on a person. The company is actually a well-oiled machine of lots of parts, lots of people, and these people work together well. And when you have that, it's very attractive to a PE firm,
Yeah.
in my opinion, at least. They want to see that company is going to continue running and is going to keep going after acquisition, after partnership, and that there's not just one thing that can make it fall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last question around just like the applicables. I want people to be able to take something from here. I had ownership in a service business. Something that we struggled with was attracting this newer, younger generation that doesn't seem to be as eager to go and work with their hands. And you guys have built a monster of a business on the foundation of you being able to wanting to learn. Ben, you're selling the job and then you're showing back up to learn how to do it. Rob, you're on every job site you could get on from the start, to finish. What could you say to somebody that would be intimidated, or maybe the appearance of the difference between a dentist that, is a white coat and doctor in front of it versus I do floods or something like that? And could you speak to the 21-year-old right now that says, I don't want to go work with my hands, and where the benefit or the opportunity could be for them?
What do you want? That's what I
Yeah.
would say, right? And no, there is a prestige that goes with certain titles, right? But if you want to make a good living, you want to work with your hands, and you're confident enough inside that that's enough, right? Go get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Service industry is an excellent industry, right? I mean, it's not this high end, right, where people seeing the praises of, oh, he owns a restoration company, as they would, a successful attorney or somebody that owns a practice in the medical field. But
Until they pop the hood,
but at the same time, like, it is a very fulfilling life. We help people, right? We've relationships have been amazing. We've been able to develop relationships with people and build friendships that will last lifetimes through the workplace. And so like, it doesn't matter if you're going into whatever field. I would say that we ended up where we are because of opportunity, and we ended up a complete different direction than we thought we would, right? Because we tried different things out, right?
Yeah.
And I would say that
At a young age. At
and
a young age.
and to go back, I didn't think I really enjoyed restoration, right? I was willing to still turn it over to Rob and go full-time school because I still thought that's what I wanted. It's when I kind of left it that I realized like, hey, I actually like this, right?
Yeah.
And so maybe it's having a little bit more introspection where you're like, okay, what do I want? Is this fulfilling? And kind of having that self-awareness that if it is, who cares about a title? You'll feel very accomplished. You'll feel really great. It's not what others think.
Yeah.
It's how you feel, right? And if that's something that you can fill your cup on, do it. And in the service industry, I feel like there's a lot of opportunity, right? Generally, it's always going to be needed. It's a secure field. It's challenging.
Yeah.
There's a lot to learn. I didn't know anything about restoration. I didn't know anything about contracting, right? But you can learn it.
Yeah. And listen, I know that because I've seen it firsthand that you guys have personally been on job sites and cutting the drywall out and setting up the fans and loading up the fans and, you know, all of the above, but that's not exactly your day-to-day these days either. And so if there's, you know, I guess what I hear from that is that it doesn't mean you always need to be in the thick of things if you can build a business in a certain way as well, you know. For those that are intimidated that I'm going to be 55 years old and still hauling fans around, you know, to make my company survive, that you can I
deal with a lot of people in
the
the service industry. Anybody that owns a company that started out doing themselves, they don't end up that way at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
It progresses, right? But that doesn't mean that you don't have to put your time in. And I think that's where I would encourage people not to be afraid, is just because you're going to be a water tech doesn't mean that you're going to be a water tech forever if that's what you choose for a profession, right? Just because you're going to be a plumber doesn't mean you can own a plumbing company. You can own a water damage, you know, restoration company, a contracting company, any service company you can own, right? And you can operate. You can become an operator more. But it's, in my opinion, at least, you can go backwards. You can start top down. But the best owners, the best operators, they're the ones that have been through it. I love being able to relate to our employees, right? Like, I've been there. I've done that. I've done those long nights. It's really gratifying to be able to
give them more grace because you get it. Like,
it's
driving to Sun Valley in the middle of the night.
Yep.
By the way, you guys used to do it with maps.
Yeah,
like
with maps.
You
Maps when we
have
started.
GPS at least these days. You
I
know?
remember you were like, how do you even know where we're going right now?
We can go anywhere in the valley, and these two were like, oh yeah, this turn left here, and I'm like, I couldn't even get us home if we tried right now.
It creates a camaraderie. We appreciate our techs. We've been there. We've been on those long nights. And we have meetings, and during monsoon season, they're dragging. We can really sit there and be like, thank you. Like the level of appreciation goes a lot further because what we've experienced. We know it's hard. We know what they're doing is hard. And so it allows us to show that gratitude, not just like superficially, but really like understand it and be like, thank you. Like look them in the eyes and be like, thanks guys. You guys are amazing. You guys are working hard. I appreciate it. And it is a cool thing to go, you know, bottom up. But yeah, it's what you make of it, right? If you can start out at the bottom and be an operator, you can go whatever field you want. But it's really, I think it's being comfortable with yourself overall and what you want. And if you're comfortable with yourself, who cares what other people think, right?
What we did was not rocket science. We did what made most sense because that's where our knowledge was, right? We worked for someone, from our brother, we learned his model, saw it worked, and we just copied it, you know, and we stuck with it. And luckily we started young. So by the time we started, you know, needing to make more money to support our family and kids, like we were 4 or 5 years into it, and we were making money to where it was a little bit easier, I think. But I mean, the truth be told is any one that is young, that is doing jobs that maybe they're just getting a job to get a job, you can learn at that job stuff that will last you your lifetime. And if you're not trying to learn, you're just showing up for a paycheck, you're losing out.
Yeah.
you know, because typically there's something to be learned at, whether it's McDonald's or it's, you know, working for your dad, you know, and doing remodels, you know. I learned in every single job something that has came to play when I was building my business.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's the biggest challenge. No matter where you're at in your life, have an attitude, hey, I'm here to learn, especially because I didn't love school. I didn't love, you know, half my day in high school was in the shop, you know, auto, welding, woodworking, you know. I enjoyed working with my hands.
If you're there to learn, right, you're not just showing up to a job. Like, I'll just roll it back to when John's like, you're not working for me in a few months, you need to figure something out. I learned while I was there that he was giving jobs away. I saw things, I saw opportunities, right? So even though I wasn't like, oh, this is my plan, I was aware of opportunities. Where were gaps that weren't being filled, right? So not just restoration, any industry that you go in as an employee at the beginning, often if you talk to, and you probably had these experiences, most everybody that ends up where they are, they go into an industry at entry level and they recognize an opportunity, right? And that opportunity might be exactly what they're doing, or it might be some type of, you know, parlay to a different thing, but there was an opportunity they saw in that moment. So I think that's one thing I would advise is don't just go up and show up and do your job. Like, show up and be like, where could I do this better? What aren't they doing? Is there other services in this market that aren't being done well? And then that will lead you to a lot more opportunity overall.
Well, opportunity seems to be a theme with you guys. We spoke about how your philosophy around risk tolerance and, you know, not taking more than you needed so you could have the decisions when opportunities come up. One theme that I know about you guys and that I appreciate about you as much as anything is that you're always in a position to take advantage of an opportunity. And I think that delayed gratification mindset around paying yourself what you felt was aligned with the lifestyle that you would like to create, but not more than you needed, has allowed you to move quickly and be opportunistic around, you know, whether it's a building or a house that comes available or a rental property that comes up or some land to be able to scoop because you guys could come in with a certain offer and act right then and there. It wasn't going and having to get qualified or find this or that. Like, you guys have just aligned your lives in a way that's allowing you to take advantage of things that come up. And that's really important in the world of investing. I see that, you know, it's fun to watch you guys. It seems like that you guys are getting a fondness of real estate. I love that portion about it, as you guys are building a real estate portfolio now and reinvesting. And I think that I could talk to you guys all day about that. But more than anything, it's amazing the partnership and the cohesiveness that you guys have created. It's something that I hope people can learn from. And you know, I envy that. I want that I have a partnership and you know, Lex works with us and, you know, those kind of things. It's been really cool to watch, and I've learned a ton from it. I appreciate you guys coming out of your shell and coming on here and sharing your story. Because I know that if it's one person that could listen to that, I would hope that they could see, man, you know, I'm in a really similar story, and look what they've done with it. Like, I could follow in their footsteps and go and, you know, start a business or, you know, make that hard decision to walk away from something that you've currently been investing in, like, you know, dental school and those kind of things. And so I appreciate it. I love you guys. Thanks for spending the time with us. And I would say, where could people find you? But if they looked, they wouldn't be able to. But, you know, if you get a chance,
get hold of James.
Yeah. Call me. I'll link you with them. But, you know, DryLux Restoration and HyperBuilt, you know, thanks again for coming on today. And I appreciate you guys.
Thanks, James. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Love you too.
Yeah.
Love you too, cousin.
Dad,
are you sure you know what you're doing?